That is a very powerful statement. And I think just to open that can all the way up, I'll pour it on the table or pour it in the bowl, is why do we have to live like that? Why do we have to live and acknowledge it in a space where it's just like somebody's going to come from my head eventually? They're going to take everything that I've worked hard for and say that I don't deserve it. And just like your DNA can be passed down with your eyes, your color of your skin, your eyebrows, your mouth, your nose, that's also part of the black DNA in America as well too. And I'm saying this as somebody who's first generation. When my parents came from Haiti, and and I exist here in this realm, watching all this. Like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. Apparently, even within certain black constructs and black diasporas, there's infighting, and I'm just like, why must there be infighting? We're all here to achieve the same thing, which is to elevate the family from the generation before and take it to the next level. It wasn't difficult, but it was just trying to get them to see outside of the box. And I think for me, for somebody who wasn't in corporate for so long, but I have so many people who have been in corporate, it made it also on the back end. I learned how to adjust my shield accordingly. Keith was talking about making ceremony stories. I learned how to shield, and what that meant is letting a little bit out so they can digest it, and then putting the shield up so before they can come out with anything, just basically say, hey, you still got some stuff left to digest, and then letting them have some more at it, And I think that's the best way to explain it, because if I flooded them with too much information, they essentially just get swept by, and it'd be like, we don't know what he's saying, we don't know what he's talking about. But when it came down to it, and I had to learn how to give them just morsels and pieces of, okay, this is what I want to
translate it so we knew what you were saying.
Well, the reason I don't translate it is because I'm very comfortable around you guys. So, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not saying like it's just natural. Like when you say things, I don't always speak the same language.
I'm so cozy with you guys.
Yeah, though. It's good. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It just is.
It's not a bad thing.
It just is.
Would you say that it was actually easy? Because you just said it was easy, and I think you're sandbagging. I don't think it was easy, because for the process of unlearning, overthinking everything, and doing it the way we were doing it, and continuing to do it because it was the way we were doing it, has not been an easy process for me to undo. Would you actually say it was an easy process?
It was an easy process, but you guys kept missing your shots from my perspective. I was the point guard, and I had a big man down center, and I had a shooting guard on the wing. And every time I tossed the ball, hit you with a bounce pass and tell you to shoot, you would shoot, but you would miss, or you'd look for the pass. And I'm just like, fam, you're wide open. Take the shot. And I think that's the best way to explain it, because if you're a point guard, your entire job is to get everybody moving around. Okay, set the screen, set the play, do whatever. But you would just and I don't want to say drop pass, because that's like a really foregone conclusion, because you guys caught some amazing passes, but you guys would not shoot when you're open, because the lane would be wide open, and I'd hit a no look pass to Keith, and I'd be like, Keith, just dunk it straight down the middle. And he wouldn't do it, and that's in reference to just like the creative aspect of it, where it's just like, guys,
we're like
home run. Yeah,
we're LeBroning it. We're like, instead of just taking over the game,
that's slander.
We're redistributing.
That's LeBron slander. Just want to clarify for the record, that's LeBron slander. Rodney still thinks Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time.
I did not say any of that. I think I didn't say that.
So over the 2 years, Ruff, what's it been like? Like, what's your growth? I mean, we could talk about our growth all day long. Curious what your growth's been over the last 2 years.
I think the growth has been understanding that clear communication and constant communication, and my fear of the follow up, which I've learned how to follow up even better, has been ideal to, especially right now, like the position that I'm in right now. I'm essentially a one-stop shop, and I have to communicate consistently. And I think what's amazing about you guys is you didn't force it on me. You just made it a part of the curriculum. You just made it a part of the process. And I think when you made it a part of the process, it became enshrined, it became documented, it became a part of my DNA. And that's something that I've had to learn how to get better at. And because of that, that's changed over time as well too. Now, I would say from a professional standpoint, nothing's changed. I'm still me, but at the same time, I've also learned how to understand people's personalities a little bit better, and understand what people are willing to jump into and what people are not willing to jump into. I think it's the best way to explain it, to say the least. Yeah.
What did, and maybe you took some of this, maybe some of your answer previously already addressed this, but did you take anything out of listening to the conversations, or anything out of, I mean, listening and editing, and obviously you got the deepest view of all the conversations. But.
Oh man, listen, it is a master class in listening. I say I went through for these last few years, and I'm still going to be listening, obviously, but the people that you guys had on to this day, I think I'm a sucker for a good conversation. One of my favorite episodes was listening to a conversation that you had with your friend whenever you was in the office, and I think he was a professor, and he talked about
Dr. Takada Rips.
Yeah, that was a really good one. With him and just understanding his proponent and his complex ideologies of just American just foresight, and then you had other conversations about one guy, for instance, one of our guests. He sat at an airport and a woman was going all Karen on the she was going all Karen on the flight attendant. The flight was delayed, and he said, it's at those moments where you have to look at yourself and be like, okay, this person is going through something, but you have to ask yourself why. Which brings me to the great conversation in a little bit, but why? And he said that he sat down and he said, hey, he's like, I hear you. And then she started going, and then she's like, my son, he just got diagnosed with cancer. I just need to be there with him. I just need to be with him. And then he was just like, tell me about your son. And it's those moments where you look at somebody and you think that they're just going crazy, but you have to ask yourself, okay, why are you acting like this? There's a reason behind this. Whether you want to admit it or not, you exist in this space, in this realm of just total chaos, because you don't want to showcase a certain emotion, or you don't want to acknowledge the state that you're in. You're trying to avoid it, which brings me to the best question, which brings me to the question with you guys, is me listening to those conversations. Hey, that's a sore subject. Let me lean back, and taking the charisma to make the guest feel comfortable enough to open up. I've watched you guys break down entire personalities and then put them right back together again, and the person not even notice. And for me, that is masterful. But at the same time, I don't think you guys realize what you're doing. And I'm not going to put any guest out there, but it really is brilliant. Which, whatever Keith, we were going through last year, whenever the George Floyd scenario happened, Keith came up with an amazing idea and said, what can white do? I'm white, what can I do? And it was a great concept and a great idea that he started. And I task him to continuously to do it, because right now, more than ever, I don't know what time we're with this, but I want to give our timeline away. But there's a lot of stuff going on right now when it comes to civil rights, when it comes to racism, when it comes to just the Black agenda. And a lot of people, whenever they hear Black agenda, they automatically get fearful. I'm not going to lie to you. I get fearful when I hear that, because it just brings me back to Black leaders getting killed and assassinated. And for me, whenever you hear Black agenda, it reeks of chaos. It reeks of violence. But the point that a lot of people, I think, need to understand is the Black agenda is not to attack you. The Black agenda is a civil rights and a human rights thing that I think a lot of people really don't comprehend. And I think with Keith's I'm white, what can I do? Is really going to change the game on that. And I'm 100% a huge supporter of whatever you guys do. And I think a lot of people, when they find out, when that mass wave comes in, when that viral clip that you guys come out with drops, you guys are going to see just it's going to be amazing. It really
it's gonna be of one of us falling. Tripping. It's gonna be on like one of us stepping on like a child's toy and losing it. That's what it's gonna be about. But
yeah,
you said a lot there. I'll start with I like what you said. What can white do, Keith? I think that's an interesting name to explore. The idea is brilliant. I love it. And
the black agenda.
Yeah. Well, like what you said about the agenda, it's even I grew up with some fear of the movement, and I grew up around people who had fear of like the Black Panthers and like, oh my God, they're so militant. They're militant. It's like, no, they're protecting themselves. And if you really think deeper about what the black agenda is, the black agenda is to just live and just survive in this country without being put upon. Because if the black agenda was to destroy this country, it would not look the same as it does right now. Like if the black agenda was to be violent and to destroy everything, like things would be nasty and horrible. And so for people that hear that and think of it, like just think a little bit deeper. But I would also implore you, keep going. It's funny you brought this up, Ruff, because I thought about this the other day. I was like, man, I need some more white.
He's slacking. I'm gonna call him out right now. He's slacking on it. He's slacking.
So I'm gonna, and for the audience, like, because I haven't promoted it on YouTube, you can find it on Instagram and all that.
He even got an Instagram account. This man
did. It's so like my social life has changed. Like it's different. But what I've it is absolutely something. So there are a couple of thoughts I have on it. One, since I came out with it, Rodney and I have like the amount of time spent on More in Common Enterprise with consulting and all of the things that we're doing. It's just, and it's been an enormous commitment to making that happen. I've also been getting more involved in my community, trying to weave in some things through the Cleveland Clinic. I'm now involved on a D&I committee where we're really trying to understand the Cleveland area and their relationship with the clinic. So really trying to get plugged in. And so there's so much on my plate. What I didn't know going into it was how much effort there is in video editing. And so having that extra 3, 4, 5 hours of potentially work, I just don't have it right now. So it's been I'm trying to be more active in doing other things. But once we quit the full-time and go full-time on this, there will be more time dedicated, because my last video dropped when I took 6 weeks off from the full-time, and I was able to dedicate to editing it, and that was my best one.
And that one was brilliant. Yeah, you did a drop on racism and bigotry and prejudice. I would. Man, we haven't talked about this. I mean, I sent you a message once, and I was like, I need you to do this. Like, I personally need you to do this. And because I was actually feeling really defeated at that day when I sent you that. And, I think that last video you did was excellent. It doesn't need to be the standard. Like, you could just pick up a phone and just do a live and just record it.
Yeah.
Because you showing up in a space with that face and that hair, like as a white dude who gives a shit, means everything.
I mean, and that's the thing about it too, that I think a lot of people fail to realize is I told you guys this in so there's just 2 quick stories. One, I was in an Uber going to the airport, and when I got to the airport, what basically happened was the dude that I was in the car with was obviously a Trump supporter. But the conversation that I had in the Uber was basically the dude was complaining about his rent in Los Angeles. And he was complaining about how much money he spent, how a new management company, he's had 3 management companies in the last 2 years come into his building and raise his rent a couple $100 every single time, to the point where he's like, I'm moving to Vegas. And he started talking about like just complaining, but he's also complaining about women having abortion. I'm like, fam, you can't. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Yeah, but they're killing babies. Bro, it's not your body, my guy. Like, it's not your body. Like, it's hers. Why should you care what she's doing with her body? Like, Like, you wouldn't care
I
if she's drinking alcohol.
literally had this conversation last weekend with a white dude who loves Fox News, but he
Yeah.
does not love Trump. He does not love Trump. And he's an enigma to me, this guy. But he just out of the blue brought up abortion as if I was like,
As if
oh,
you're
we're
ready
having
for
this
that
conversation.
Like, it's like, oh,
We're having like,
sure. Sign me
in
up.
no way do we have a relationship in which abortion should be a conversation. However, he just talked, and I think he thought he could trigger me. Honestly, he wanted to see if he could.
And I mean, we're finding out more of those conversations. And the thing is, for me, is I forgot the second story because that first one was
Well,
so good.
hold on real quick. The thing I just want to say is like that it's her body thing. I was just like, okay, so if you got told you had to get a vasectomy after your child, or you got told you had to have any kind of procedure, or you couldn't have a procedure that you needed and or wanted to have, like, how would you feel about that? And he just said nothing. He said nothing. Absolutely.
There is no callback to it. But that's the whole, like, because there's a whole other wave of it too, where they're saying like the Christian right felt defeated after gay rights got put into the Supreme Court. So now their big attack is on trans rights, which a couple laws just came into fruition and hit a couple floors of a couple states recently. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day, because I don't want to make it about that, because we're
This is it. It's a lot of cans. Have you ever seen Signs with Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
You know how his
Yeah.
daughter has water all over the house?
Yeah,
That's rough
and
in
you just put them on the shelf, and then we'll come back to it later, and we won't have time to come back to these really deep conversations.
Eventually, they will keep us safe because aliens are going to attack us, and it turns out they're allergic to water.
I want to stay on one of those cans that's on the shelf that Rodney you opened up. Is the Black Agenda? Like, I find it fascinating how it's almost like it's a triggering sentiment that, oh, the Black Agenda. Like, at the end of the day, this country has been built without the say-so of the people who economically gave economic power to this country, right? Because of free labor and the cotton trade. And so the agenda of the black, it's almost like, and there is that way it's been framed culturally is as if that is going to take over what is the white power dynamic, when at the end of the day, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, because I used to think of it in terms of equity, right? But I don't know, I heard someone say, it might have been even Dr. Grant, like, it's equity, it's about being able to live and create a culture and have space that thrives in the way that America, as an ideal to create freedom, allows it to exist, not necessarily as part of the white power dynamic or economic model or any of that for that matter. It's just a way to live freely, whether it's because they don't want to interact with white people, cool, right? Or if it's because this group wants whatever they want, but it's a matter of just that space, and this idea of Black Agenda vilifies it. It's like it's a group of people who want what they helped build, and that the country ultimately hasn't given them since the beginning.
James Baldwin said it best, like, your American ideals, I'm paraphrasing here, doesn't exist for me.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. The American plight does not exist. Like, the American dream is not a reality for me.
And then you just think about the structure of America. It's all social construct, right? So it's just these all made up social constructs that only survive if we all agree to them. Or
the power dynamic.
Right. But at the end of the day, multiple subsets of social constructs can exist within this plateau if the power dynamic allowed for it, and that power dynamic is predominantly white men. We can't get away from it anymore, right? We can't hide from it.
You're speaking about power dynamics, Keith. You brought up an interesting point, and I want to talk to you guys about this as well, too, since we're talking about the Black Agenda. What happens whenever black people get money? What happens whenever black people get power? What's going to happen then? Because for me, in the back of my mind, I don't think white people are ready for that. Like, who do you think you are with all your millions and billions of dollars? You think you can have this? And I think the reality of it is just that whenever the money comes in and people start seeing black people rise up out of poverty, rise up out of the middle class, and they start to be able to attain buildings. And that's why a lot of people don't realize this. Like, one of the largest states with black millionaires is Texas. But no, you can't, a black millionaire can't come out voraciously and talk about how they've made their wealth, because somebody's always going to ask, how did you get here? And then people are going to start knocking, like, and start pickpocketing and looking through your windows. And the reality of it is we don't want another Tulsa, so we keep it to ourselves, stay quiet, live rather modestly.
Yes, it's more than just looking through the windows. Like, it's been legalized and is legal to take it from black folk. So, like, for me, every rung of success, I just look at, like, all right, well, when's somebody coming?
And that is a very powerful statement. And I think just to open that can all the way up, I pour it on the table or pour it in the bowl, is why do we have to live like that? Why do we have to live and acknowledge it in a space where it's just like, somebody's going to come for my head eventually. They're going to take everything that I've worked hard for and say that I don't deserve it. And just like your DNA can be passed down with your eyes, your color of your skin, your eyebrows, your mouth, your nose, that's also part of the black DNA in America as well too. And I'm saying this as somebody who's first generation. When my parents came from Haiti, and and I exist here in this realm, watching all this, like, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. Apparently, even within certain black constructs and black diasporas, there's infighting, and I'm just like, why must there be infighting? We're all here to achieve the same thing, which is to elevate the family from the generation before and take it to the next level. Which is one of the main reasons why I became a creator, because I could become a doctor, I could become a lawyer, I could become something standard and make my 100K a year. But the reality of it is, the way my brain thinks, I would be bored out my mind, and I would be miserable being in a space where it's just like, fam, you're telling me I got to go ahead and cut this patient open again? He's been here 3 times already. Why won't he just die? I will verbally say that out loud to the nurses, because that's my horrible bedside manner. But that's what I would think.
So I'm looking forward to getting the Jim Lowry piece out that you haven't. You're not going to edit, so you're going to have to listen to it, because he talks about the only way that equity happens is by having more black billionaires. And I mean, you bring up a great point.
Power to power.
Well, I mean, is everybody ready for that? Because that creates
no.
And I don't know.
The world is not ready for that.
It's going to be a cold war. Honestly, if you really want to think about it, it's going to be a cold war. I want to
call something out real quick too for the audience, because we have a lot of what you would say liberal agenda type conversations, right? If we call it out straight up. But you
is this the part
identify as a conservative Republican, right?
Moderate
conservative, not conservative.
Don't have them coming from my head. Don't have them coming from my head.
So, and I think, and the reason I call that out in the frame of this conversation is everything's become so polarized in the last 10 years, but especially in the last 4. And it's almost as if that label matters to the nuance and reality of the conversation. And what I'm just saying is it doesn't. You can be Republican or conservative and still understand the nuance of this conversation and understand the plight and the issues. It's not. I mean, it's just life. It is
not mutually exclusive.
I think what a lot of people are realizing as well too is that when you look at the numbers, there is more white people in America than there are black people, and that's okay.
There are 50 million black people in America. Yeah, ish. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is
13 now.
Yeah, and
used to be 20. Did you know that? Used to be 20 in the 19th century.
And
the vast,
And that's the thing to me. When we look at those numbers, like these gentlemen are talking about, what a lot of people fail to realize is that, like, people of color are significantly more disproportionate, but the wealth is not distributed the same. And it's not to say, like, you're rich, give me your money. No. We're talking about the same opportunities. There's systems put into place. We could talk about systematic racism, but no, I'm going to simplify it for a lot of people on this podcast. There are literal systems put into place to keep same families in there and operational. And what that means is you take your kid to a private school. That private school has people who are of influence. if you can get your kid into that private school for just 1 year, that will literally significantly, maybe even double your net worth of your family because of the people that you might meet there and the connections that you might make in that 1 year. And what does that do to your family? It takes your family to the next level. Now you can move to a quote unquote safe neighborhood, which for me, I say quote unquote, because every neighborhood is safe until you talk to the wrong person, in my opinion. I'll leave that there. I'll let that just sit right there on the table. Let that simmer. Let it simmer. Every neighborhood is safe until you talk to the right person or wrong person, give or take. And the point that I'm trying to make is it's just that there's systems put into place for people to succeed. Unfortunately, there's a lot more white people in those systems than there are black people. And that's whenever you get into the conversation of, well, is this systematic? Yes, it's systematic. And the fact that there's more white people in those systems means that it's systemic racism. And that is the whole purpose of systemic racism. That is the idea of systemic racism. Because, yeah, you can have those systems into place, but if they're not divvied out, then that means one person or one group can benefit more so than the next. And I mean, how is that difficult to understand?
Because when you're in it and you're a part of it and you benefit from it, for me, it's the clearest definition of privilege. When you don't have to think about something, then you're privileged. And so you don't have to think about it because it's never negatively affected you. Like, my friends who are white who grew up with me in Indiana are like, my life's hard too. Like, I don't have a dad, I don't have a mom, or we grew up poor. And I'm like, yes. And you haven't lost opportunities because of your skin color. Like, take what you've gone through and make it harder for somebody who maybe even started out ahead of you. And that, like, it's hard, but you can't.
There's a truth about the reality of the false narrative of meritocracy, and that is, I have worked hard. My identity is in hard work, and if for whatever reason you have less of a harder road, and that is magnified in some way, somehow it devalues my identity. And I think to your point about privilege, Rodney, one of my favorite things, and it's been online, is if you've never had the law question whether you should exist legally, then you have privilege. And the only, and literally, I want to say this loud and clear, the only group of people in this country that have never been questioned on whether they should exist legally is straight white men. Women couldn't vote until 1920. We all know the plight of black people, gay people, now transgender.
Won't even talk about Native Americans.
That's the thing. So it's funny you guys bring that up because I remembered my second story. As Dave Chappelle likes to say, come get your nigga tails. I was talking to a friend of mine. We play video games together. We haven't played in a while. And when all this stuff was going down with when the murder happened of George Floyd, and it happened, he couldn't grasp and understand why that happened. And just like Rodney brought it up, and Keith brought it up, I come from a poor family too. You know, life was hard. I lived out of my car and stuff like that. I mean, dude, you're a straight white man with two beautiful kids who are smart, and for some reason you can't understand why it's not okay for your kids to say the N-word, or why it's okay for it to hear that on a video game, which is fine. I get it. You know, it's your prerogative. I'm not going to come after you. But he said something to me one day. He said, "Hey, Ruff, I think I get it." And I said, "What do you mean?" "I think I get it. I was on Facebook the other day, and I was reading a post that one of my friends put. She's a white woman, and she broke it down and broke down privilege. And she broke it down, and she understood, you know, what it meant, the empathy that we're supposed to have for black people. And I think I get it." And at that moment, I understood. You can't talk to everybody. As much as you want to tell everybody this, that, and third, and you want to tell them, hey, this is what it is, this is what's going on, Black Lives Matter, they won't get it. Until they hear it from somebody who looks like them, until they understand it from somebody who sounds like them, until they understand it from somebody who understands where they come from, they won't get it. And why does it have to go that far? I don't know. But he understood it, and he said, I get it. I grasp it. I understand the concept. He's basically like Hades in Hercules. I get it. I get it. I grasp the concept. And that's
it's like the biggest issue is that we're tribal. I think that's why. And the tribe is look, I can see that you are the same as me, and I can't see that you're the same as me because you don't look the same, even though I will say I'm colorblind or whatever. And that's where it comes. That's why somebody could look at the video that came, it was like yesterday or 2 days ago, of the white dude in a pickup truck surrounded by special forces officers and police officers, and a police officer was on
his arm was through the window,
the running board of his truck, arm in the window, trying to get the key out of the ignition. An officer with a AR-15 pointed to the ground, not the car, and he's backing into cop cars, driving into cop cars, drove off with a cop.
It's a movie.
Arm in the car. It's a fucking movie.
This
not
happened?
one single bullet fired.
Yes,
not
this
a
happened.
single bullet fired, bro. And then I'm telling you, white people will look at it and be like, I don't see a problem. Like,
no, we gotta laugh at that. We gotta laugh at that because this is the reason why black people are jaded. And I mean, and I say black is my friends, my family, my counterparts, my
bro,
Hispanic
I would be dead
brothers and
10
sisters.
times. I would be dead 10 times if I
Bro.
thought about looking at the
Well, and I mean
shifter in the car.
that shit's real because of what had happened in Chicago 2 weeks ago.
With the 13-year-old,
the 13-year-old.
who they said had a gun
Said
on
they
him,
had a
and
gun
all he
on
did
him,
was just
and
raise
he
his
just
hands.
raised his hands. He just stopped in the alley, raised his hands, and he took one in the chest, and then took another one.
I can't watch the video. I just saw the picture and I don't watch them anymore.
You know, there's this movie out.
I stopped.
There's
a while
this
ago.
movie out on Netflix, and we gotta come to time here soon. I think we could talk forever. There's this movie out on Netflix. I think it's called Distant Strangers. It's like 30 minutes long. It's a short one, and it is essentially about this young black professional who relives the same day over and over and over again. And he's basically killed by a police officer over and over and over and over again. And it is an exceptional representation.
And he tries to, because he like ends up in the wrong. He's like in the wrong neighborhood, and he tries many ways to get around
he's
it.
not even
Like,
in the
Groundhog
wrong
Day.
neighborhood.
That's powerful.
Like it's just, and it's a really great visual representation of just what it is, and it really does a good job making you feel it and see the perspective and see what happens. And you know, when he lights up a cigarette and that doesn't smell like a cigarette, right? Now let me check out. Now it's showing stop and frisk and what stop and frisk is all about, right? And all of these things that end up happening to people of color in this country that don't happen. You know, I mean, there are there are 4 officers ever, I think it was 4, now Derek Chauvin is the 4th, officers ever tried in the state of Minnesota for killing.
For killing an unarmed black man? Or just killing in general?
We'll take Chauvin off of it. 1 has been actually convicted. Did you know that one person is an officer of color who killed, I think, 50-year-old white woman? He got 13 years in prison. Right?
I mean,
like
sounds about white. Sounds
I mean, these things happen. So
Yeah.
this is. I mean, it's been. So listen, I want. We got to start bringing this to a close, and I just want to. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You got to check it out.
I do want to add a caveat to that. So there's this small movement. Well, it's mostly large right now. So I don't know if you guys noticed in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a surge of just black traumatic movies.
Yeah.
Run Away from the Law, and that seems to sell. There's a small movement online right now where people are saying, you know what? We're kind of over this. I think it's time we start putting putting black people and people of color into really like happy-go-lucky movies, happy-go-lucky TV shows, and just showcase that we're more than just the black trauma trope. The slave movies, and don't get me wrong, all those movies are amazing. Get Out, phenomenal black horror film, stuff like that. I saw Queen and Slim. That was interesting in its own right as well too. But But I think a lot of people are just like, you know what? It's time for us to really start making a lot
I mean,
more
I won't
TV
watch
shows and
them.
movies.
I don't need any more
And
trauma.
there's so much good stuff out there now. I was watching this movie the other day. 10 years is what it's called. Back in 2011. It's only produced in 2011.
Mm.
And what's his name who played Falcon from Marvel Comics? Anthony Mackie.
Anthony Mackie
plays the only black male role in the movie, and he's a player, he lights up. He's the one that provides the dope to all the people, right? Like he's a walking trope. Now this was 10 years ago, right?
Well, this is how you get into Hollywood. Like, you have to play that role to get in. Oh my God, Chadwick Boseman talked about this.
Yeah,
when he quit one of his first roles, like he's like, can we make this character more complex? And like, no.
Yeah, why does he have to have a drug dealer mom? And that's the thing too. Like to bring it around to the whole reason I brought up the whole like black people in different genres and different types of film is because how we're portrayed in media also affects the biases that people have towards black people, which also affects the biases that certain people in law enforcement have against black people as well too. Whenever you see a lieutenant from the army who is black and has on his lieutenant garb in his car getting pepper sprayed by cops, it makes you think from a different perspective, like, what is this really about? This is not about the military. We know this. We've known this for a long time. And I'm not here on a soapbox, so let me not do that. I think what I'm trying to say is that the reason I'm a slave to art and a slave to creating, which in this context is the wrong word to use, but I really do mean it because, like, I really do work hands and knees. I've been broke. I've been trying to figure things out from way back. Even whenever I was in university, I'd jump on a bus for like 2 hours just to go to school and stuff like that. So for me, it's just like there's stories that need to be told. There's people that need to be a part of certain experiments and a part of certain projects that I don't know yet, but I know that story needs to be told and it needs to get out there. And I think that's the reason why I exist in this realm. I think that's the reason why I linked up with you guys for More in Common, because to have a conversation with somebody who's extremely difficult and they are seeing red and their blinders are on, but to talk them down from the ledge, to sit down with them, and to break bread with them, even if they're screaming and spitting in your face, I'm exaggerating here, but still get them to understand where they're coming from and make them feel confident enough to then, once they feel confident enough, to tell them where you're coming from and for them to understand. That is not only a life skill, but it's a Pope job. And the reason I say it's a Pope job is because you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life, because you're always going to see a different side of things. You're never going to see it black and white. Why is this? Where is this coming from? It's almost like a comedian's mindset. There's something funny here, and we need to unlock it. We need to open up the box. And I think that's why I was tasked to work with you guys.
We appreciate that. And listen, you've done a lot for us over the last 2 years. We had no idea where this conversation was going to go, but out of respect for the evolution that you've given us and the time that we've spent together, it's only a selfish privilege and joy to have this conversation and put it out in the world for anybody to listen to, because we appreciate the time you've spent with us, and obviously we'll be in touch, but from a professional standpoint, like, we wish you the best, and we're always here to support whatever you need to do.
I think the feeling is mutual. I know you guys are going to crush it. And like I said, I'm still going to be a part of the team because I still want some sweet merch. Because, all the t-shirts, they'll look good. Catch them out at moreincommonpod.com. I'm not wearing one right now, but, one of these guys will put one on for the sake. The merch is awesome, but the message is even better. And I know that sounds so cliche for me to say, but it is the honest truth. And I would be remiss if I were to just step away and not be a part of this process any further. And that's not something that I'm willing and capable to do. So whatever you guys need, you guys know I'm here.
So wait. I want to wrap it with this then. What does compassion mean to you, Ruff?
I'm just getting so teary-eyed just thinking about it. Compassion. Compassionate is life. Compassion is breath. Compassion is not just understanding, but also taking as well. Compassion is giving, but most of all, compassion is listening and also hearing.